The holographic displays at Stellar Academy cast a soft azure glow across the observation deck, where hundreds of students from across the galaxy gathered for their daily computational training. Among them sat Luna Patel, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling mathematical patterns before her, her fingers dancing across the neural interface with uncanny precision. The Academy, housed within the massive space station Helios Prime, represented the pinnacle of intergalactic education. Its crystalline spires and quantum-powered halls hosted the brightest young minds from over 50 different species. Yet today, all attention focused on the small human girl who had just broken every known record in the Academy's history. "Impossible," muttered Professor Zewextal, his bioluminescent tentacles pulsing with shades of disbelief. The Cephalarian instructor had been teaching advanced quantum mathematics for over 3 centuries, but never had he witnessed anything like this. "She's processing temporal algorithms at speeds that surpass our quantum computers." Luna barely registered the growing crowd of onlookers. Her mind moved through the problems like water flowing through a stream, each solution leading naturally to the next. The patterns spoke to her in ways she couldn't explain, they were simply there, as clear as constellations in a night sky. "Miss Patel," called out Director Naira, her holographic form materializing beside Luna's workstation. The director's avatar shimmered with the characteristic blue light of the station's AI systems. "Perhaps you'd care to explain how you're achieving these results." Luna's hands finally stilled, and she looked up, suddenly aware of the audience she had drawn. Students of various species, some humanoid, others decidedly not, watched her with a mixture of awe and skepticism. She tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear, a nervous habit she'd never quite broken. "I just see it," she said quietly. "The numbers, they form patterns. Like a dance, or a song. Each sequence has its own rhythm, its own flow. Once you understand the basic steps, the rest just follows naturally." Director Naira's avatar flickered thoughtfully. "Would you be willing to demonstrate your process for the Advanced Studies Board?" Before Luna could respond, a low vibration rumbled through the station. The holographic displays flickered, and for a brief moment, strange symbols flashed across every screen, patterns unlike anything in the Academy's databases. Professor Zewextal's tentacles coiled tightly, a sign of alarm among his species. "Director, these energy signatures, they're unlike anything in our records." But Luna sat transfixed, her eyes wide with recognition. The mysterious symbols weren't random at all, they formed a complex mathematical sequence, one that resonated with something deep within her mind. Without thinking, her fingers began to move across her interface again, responding to the strange code with calculations of her own. "Luna, stop!" Director Naira commanded, but it was too late. The young student had already begun a dialogue with whatever force had reached out to them. The observation deck's main viewport suddenly illuminated with a brilliant display of quantum particles, forming shapes and patterns that defied conventional physics. And there, emerging from the cosmic dance of light and energy, appeared a vessel unlike any in known space. Its surface seemed to ripple like liquid mercury, covered in patterns that matched the mathematical sequence Luna had just solved. As it approached the station, its presence triggered every sensor and alarm system aboard Helios Prime. "By the cosmic core," breathed Professor Zewextal, "it's a Cynthian vessel. But they're supposed to be extinct, they vanished from the galaxy over 10,000 years ago." Luna stood slowly, drawn to the viewport by an inexplicable force. The patterns covering the alien ship's hull seemed to pulse in sync with her own heartbeat. She understood now why mathematics had always come so naturally to her. She wasn't just solving problems, she was speaking an ancient language, one that predated human civilization itself. Director Naira's avatar expanded, addressing the entire deck. "All students are to return to their quarters immediately. This is not a drill. Security protocols are now in effect." But Luna remained rooted to the spot, her mind racing with possibilities. The Cynthians hadn't vanished, they had been waiting, searching for someone who could understand their language of pure mathematics. And somehow, through some quirk of genetics or cosmic chance, Luna spoke it fluently. As security officers rushed onto the deck, Luna felt a gentle probe touch her consciousness, a mathematical equation posed as a question. Without hesitation, she answered it, her mind forming the solution as naturally as breathing. The Cynthian ship responded immediately, projecting a message that only she could decode. At last, we have found the one who speaks the language of the universe. The great confluence approaches, and you, child of Earth, may be the key to preventing the collapse of all realities. The quarantine deck of Helios Prime hummed with restrained energy as Luna sat before a panel of the station's highest-ranking officials. The Cynthian ship had taken up position just outside the station's defensive perimeter, its mercurial surface continuing to ripple with mathematical sequences that only Luna could comprehend. "You need to understand the gravity of this situation," Admiral Thek said, his crystalline form refracting light as he paced. The Lumerian administrator's voice carried the weight of centuries of experience. The Cynthians were thought to be nothing more than legend. Their disappearance marked the end of what historians call the First Age of Understanding. Luna nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The events of the past 12 hours had transformed her from an unusual student into the center of what could be the most significant contact event in recent galactic history. Professor Zyxtal floated nearby, his tentacles now a deep shade of purple indicating intense concentration. "The patterns you're seeing, Luna, can you describe them in more detail?" "They're like echoes," Luna explained, struggling to put the abstract concepts into words. "Each sequence contains embedded layers of meaning. It's not just mathematics, it's a complete language that describes the fundamental nature of reality itself." The room's holographic displays suddenly sparked to life, showing real-time footage of the Cynthian vessel. Its surface had begun generating new patterns, more complex than before. Luna's eyes tracked the sequences automatically, her mind translating them without conscious effort. "They're warning us," she said, her voice growing urgent. "Something is coming, something that exists outside normal spacetime. They call it the Void Cascade." Director Naira's avatar materialized, her expression grave. The Void Cascade appears in ancient texts across multiple civilizations. It's described as a cosmic phenomenon that devours entire realities. "But why now?" Admiral Thex demanded. "Why have they chosen this moment to return?" Luna's response was interrupted by a sudden shift in the station's artificial gravity. The holographic displays flickered, showing distortions in the surrounding space. The Cynthian ship's patterns changed again, this time with an intensity that made Luna gasp. "They're not just warning us," she realized, standing up as the translation became clear in her mind. "They're preparing us. The cascade has already begun at the edges of our galaxy. The Cynthians didn't disappear, they've spent millennia developing a way to stop it." Professor Zyxtal's tentacles writhed with agitation. "But why would they need a human child?" "No offense, Luna, but surely they're advanced civilization." "Because they lost something," Luna interrupted, the understanding flowing through her like a current. "The ability to innovate, to think creatively. They became so advanced, so perfect in their mathematical precision, that they lost the capacity for intuitive leaps. They need a bridge between pure logic and creative problem-solving." The station shuddered again, stronger this time. Through the viewport, space itself seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The Cynthian ship's patterns shifted into a rapid sequence that made Luna's heart race. "They're requesting permission to dock," she translated. "They want to show me something, something they've been keeping safe for thousands of years." Admiral Thex turned to Director Naira, his crystalline form pulsing with concern. "The security implications alone." "We may not have a choice," Director Naira countered. "If what Luna's translating is accurate, we're facing a threat greater than anything in recorded history." Luna stepped closer to the viewport, placing her hand against the transparent barrier. The Cynthian ship responded immediately, its surface flowing like quicksilver to mirror her gesture. In that moment, She felt a connection that transcended language itself, a glimpse of knowledge so vast it made her dizzy. "There's more," she whispered. "The patterns, they're not just in their ship. They're in me. In my DNA. They've been waiting for someone like me to be born, someone who could naturally understand their language." The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. Professor Zewextal's tentacles had turned a pale shade of white, a sign of profound shock among his species. Admiral Thex's crystalline form had stilled completely, and even Director Naira's avatar seemed to flicker with uncertainty. "It wasn't chance that brought me to the Academy," Luna continued, the truth unfolding in her mind like a blooming flower. "The Synthians have been guiding human evolution for millennia, waiting for the right combination of genes to produce someone who could bridge the gap between our species. They needed someone who could think both mathematically and creatively, someone who could help them remember how to dream." The station's lights dimmed as another gravitational wave passed through. Through the viewport, the fabric of space continued to distort, creating patterns that mirrored those flowing across the Synthian ship's hull. Time was running out. "We need to make a decision," Director Naira stated firmly. "The void cascade is approaching, and if Luna is correct, the Synthians may be our only hope of stopping it." Luna turned to face the assembled officials, her young face set with determination. "I know it's scary. I know it seems impossible. But sometimes the most important patterns are the ones we can't see until we take a leap of faith." Admiral Thex's crystalline form pulsed once, then steadied. "Very well. Permission to dock granted. But Luna," he added, his tone softening slightly, "whatever they show you, whatever they've been waiting for, remember that you're not just representing humanity now. You're representing all of us." As the Synthian ship began its approach, Luna felt a strange calm settle over her. The patterns that had always filled her mind were no longer just abstract mathematics, they were a bridge between worlds, a key to saving not just one reality, but all of them. And somehow, improbably, she was the one chosen to turn that key. The interior of the Synthian vessel defied conventional geometry. Luna walked through corridors that seemed to fold in on themselves, accompanied by Admiral Thex and Professor Zewextal. The walls pulsed with living mathematics, each pattern telling a story of cosmic significance that only she could read. Their guide, a Synthian who had introduced itself as Sequence Prime, moved with fluid grace. Its form was constantly shifting, like Mercury given consciousness, yet maintaining a vaguely humanoid shape. When it spoke, it did so through pure mathematical concepts that Luna translated for her companions. "They've been watching us for so long," Luna explained as another pattern cascade washed over the walls. "Not just humans, but all spacefaring races. They were looking for signs of mathematical resonance, beings who could naturally perceive the underlying patterns of reality." Admiral Thex's crystalline form sparkled with skepticism. "And they found this resonance in a human child?" "The capacity was always there," Luna translated as Sequence Prime's surface rippled with new equations. "Humans have something unique, an ability to see patterns while simultaneously imagining new ones. It's why we can create art, music, poetry. The Synthians lost that ability as they evolved toward perfect mathematical precision." The corridor opened into a vast chamber that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the human mind could process. At its center floated a structure that Luna recognized immediately. It was identical to the patterns she'd been seeing in her dreams since childhood. "The Nexus Core," she breathed, the name coming to her instinctively. Professor Zewextal's tentacles twisted in complex knots. The legend spoke of such a device, a mechanism capable of rewriting the fundamental constants of the universe itself. Sequence Prime's form rippled with urgent patterns. Luna's eyes widened as she translated. "The void cascade isn't just destroying reality, it's unraveling the mathematical principles that hold existence together. The Synthians built the Nexus Core to reinforce those principles, but what?" Admiral Thex demanded. "But they can't operate it anymore," Luna continued, understanding dawning in her eyes. "They've become too rigid, too perfect in their mathematical thinking. The core requires something more, it needs intuition, creativity, the ability to see patterns that shouldn't exist yet somehow do. The chamber trembled as another gravitational wave passed through the ship. Through the transparent walls, they could see space itself beginning to fragment, reality cracking like glass under immense pressure. Sequence Prime approached the Nexus core, its liquid metal form generating complex equations that made Luna's mind buzz. The message was clear, it was time for her to attempt what no being had managed in thousands of years. Luna stepped forward, her heart pounding. The core responded to her presence, its surface shifting to match her own internal rhythms. She reached out, and as her fingers touched the surface, her consciousness expanded exponentially. She saw everything, the delicate mathematical dance of quantum particles, the grand equations that governed galactic motion, the subtle patterns that connected all living things. But she also saw the void between these patterns, the chaos that threatened to unravel it all. The cascade isn't just coming, she gasped, her mind struggling to process the vast input of information. It's already here, eating away at the edges of our reality. We have minutes, maybe hours at most. Admiral Thex moved forward urgently. Then what are we waiting for? If you can operate the core. It's not that simple, Luna interrupted, her hands moving across the core's surface as she tried to understand its complexity. The patterns, they're like a symphony, but with infinite instruments. The Cynthians can play each note perfectly, but they've forgotten how to make music. And I can hear the music, but I don't know how to play the instruments. Sequence Prime suddenly generated a new pattern, one so complex it made Luna's head spin. But within the mathematical complexity, she recognized something familiar, the same patterns she'd seen in the Academy's quantum computers, in the station's AI systems, in every piece of advanced technology. That's it, she whispered, a plan forming in her mind. We don't need perfect mathematical precision or pure creativity. We need both. Professor ZYXTAL, I need you to link the Academy's quantum computers to the core. Admiral Thex, your crystalline biology can help channel and focus the energy patterns. The chamber shuddered violently as another wave of void energy washed over the ship. Through the transparent walls, they could see Helios Prime's defensive shields beginning to fail as reality itself began to tear apart. Luna placed both hands on the Nexus core, her mind racing. The Cynthians spent millennia looking for someone who could bridge the gap between logic and intuition. But they weren't just looking for an operator, they were looking for a conductor. Her fingers began to move across the core's surface, not with the precise patterns of the Cynthians, but with the flowing grace of a musician. The core responded, its energies beginning to harmonize with her movements. Everyone, link with the core now, she commanded, her voice carrying an authority that belied her years. As her companions made contact, she began to weave their unique abilities together, the Cynthians' mathematical precision, the quantum computer's processing power, Admiral Thex's crystalline focus, and Professor ZYXTAL's multidimensional perception. The chamber filled with light as Luna conducted an impossible symphony of science and intuition, logic and creativity, each participant adding their own unique resonance to the growing harmony. Through it all, she could feel the void cascade approaching, a discordant note threatening to shatter their reality's song. But in that moment, as multiple forms of consciousness merged through the Nexus core, Luna understood why the Cynthians had chosen her. It wasn't just her mathematical ability or her creative insight, it was her human capacity to bring people together, to find harmony in diversity, to create something new from the combination of different perspectives. As the void pressed in around them, Luna began to play the universe's song, not as it was, but as it could be. The universe trembled as Luna conducted her impossible symphony through the Nexus core. Energy patterns cascaded through the chamber, each wave more complex than the last. Through the transparent walls of the Cynthian vessel, they could see reality itself beginning to bend and warp around them. The void is accelerating its approach, Professor ZYXTAL announced, his tentacles now glowing with an intense white light as he channeled energy through the core. Multiple realities are collapsing simultaneously. Luna's hands danced across the core's surface, weaving together the different consciousnesses connected to it. Each participant contributed their unique perspective, the Cynthians' perfect mathematical precision, the quantum computer's raw processing power, Admiral Thex's crystalline ability to focus and amplify energy, and Professor Zweigstal's multidimensional awareness. But something was still missing. "We're not reaching far enough," Luna realized, her voice strained with effort. "The patterns need to extend beyond our local spacetime. We need to broadcast the stabilizing frequency across all realities simultaneously." Sequence Prime's liquid metal form rippled with urgent equations. The message was clear: attempting to extend the core's influence across multiple realities could tear apart the fabric of existence even faster than the void cascade. "We have to try," Luna insisted. "The void isn't just destroying our reality, it's consuming all possible realities. If we don't stop it here and now, there won't be anything left to save." Through their connection to the core, Luna could feel the other's doubt and fear. The scope of what she proposed was beyond anything attempted in the history of any civilization. But she could also feel something else: trust. Despite her youth, despite her species' relative inexperience in cosmic matters, they trusted her intuition. "Director Naira," Luna called out, her voice echoing through the chamber's communication systems. "I need you to network every AI system in Helios Prime. We need their processing power." The director's holographic form appeared in the chamber. "That's never been attempted. The security risks dash." "There won't be any security risks if reality itself ceases to exist," Luna interrupted. "Please. Trust me." A moment of tension passed, then Director Naira's avatar nodded. The chamber hummed as thousands of AI systems began linking together, their combined consciousness flowing into the Nexus core through Luna's orchestration. The void's presence grew stronger, reality cracking around them like splintering glass. Through these cracks, Luna could see other versions of the chamber, other versions of themselves, all fighting the same battle across infinite realities. "Everyone, focus on my pattern," Luna commanded, her hands moving in increasingly complex sequences. "Don't try to understand it, just feel it. Let it flow through you." She began to weave a new kind of mathematics, one that bridged the gap between pure logic and pure intuition. It wasn't just equations anymore, it was music, art, poetry, all expressed through mathematical concepts that shouldn't have been possible. The Cynthians had spent millennia perfecting their mathematical understanding of the universe, but in doing so, they'd forgotten that the universe wasn't just a set of equations. It was also a story, a song, a dance of infinite possibilities. Luna's pattern spread through the linked consciousnesses, each one adding their own unique resonance to the growing symphony. The quantum computers provided the underlying rhythm, the AIs added complexity and depth, the Cynthians contributed perfect mathematical precision, and the organic minds added creativity and intuition. Through it all, Luna conducted this impossible orchestra, her mind expanded far beyond normal human limitations. She could see the void clearly now, not just its destructive power, but its nature. It wasn't just absence or destruction, it was the universe trying to reject an fundamental imbalance. "The void isn't our enemy," Luna gasped as understanding flooded through her. "It's the universe's immune system, trying to fix something that went wrong long ago." The Cynthians didn't just build the Nexus core to stop it, they built it to heal reality itself. The chamber filled with blinding light as Luna's revelation rippled through the linked consciousnesses. The pattern she'd been creating wasn't just a shield against the void, it was a bridge, a way to restore balance to all of reality. Through the core, Luna began to sing a new song to the universe. It wasn't a song of resistance or battle, but one of harmony and healing. The mathematics of it were impossibly complex, yet somehow as simple as a lullaby. The void's advance slowed, then stopped, as if listening to this new pattern. Through the cracks in reality, Luna could see other versions of herself across infinite dimensions, all singing the same song in slightly different ways, creating a harmony that transcended individual existence. Look! Professor Zweigstal's voice cut through the chamber's humming energy. Through the transparent walls, they could see the void beginning to respond to their pattern. Instead of destroying reality, it was now weaving itself into Luna's symphony, adding its own voice to the cosmic harmony. Admiral Thex's crystalline form pulsed with amazement. It's not just stopping, it's helping us repair the damage it caused. Luna smiled, though maintaining the pattern took every ounce of her concentration. The Cynthians had spent millennia trying to perfect their mathematical understanding of reality, not realizing that perfection wasn't what the universe needed. It needed balance, the perfect mathematics of the Cynthians dancing with the creative chaos of humanity, the processing power of machines harmonizing with the intuition of organic minds. As the void began to retreat, its destructive power transformed into healing energy, Luna realized that this wasn't just about saving reality. It was about teaching the universe a new way to exist, one where logic and creativity, order and chaos, could dance together in endless harmony. In the days following the convergence, Helios Prime buzzed with an energy unlike anything in its history. The station's observation deck, once filled with students practicing standard equations, now hosted representatives from dozens of civilizations, all eager to understand what had transpired. Luna stood at the center of it all, changed but unbowed by her experience. The patterns still danced in her mind, but now they felt less like an overwhelming flood and more like a familiar song. The Nexus core had been relocated to a special chamber within the station, its surface now reflecting a perfect harmony of mathematical precision and creative chaos. The void signatures have completely vanished from all monitored sectors of space, Professor Zweigstal announced, his tentacles now displaying a peaceful shade of blue. More importantly, the fundamental constants of reality have stabilized at a new frequency, one that accommodates both order and chaos. Sequence Prime's liquid metal form shifted with elegant equations that Luna now understood as expressions of joy and wonder. The Cynthians had evolved beyond their rigid mathematical perfection, learning to incorporate creativity and intuition into their patterns. It wasn't just about stopping the void, Luna explained to the assembled gathering. The universe was trying to tell us something. Perfect order and pure chaos are two sides of the same coin. We needed both to create true harmony. Director Naira's holographic form shimmered with newfound complexity. The station's AI systems had been forever changed by their participation in the convergence, developing a deeper understanding of intuition and creativity while maintaining their logical precision. The question remains, Admiral Thex said, his crystalline form refracting light in new and beautiful patterns, what do we do with this knowledge? The power to reshape reality itself. We share it, Luna interrupted firmly. Not the power itself, that needs to stay safely contained within the core. But the understanding, the harmony we've discovered between different ways of thinking and being, that belongs to everyone. The Admiral nodded slowly, his form pulsing with approval. The Stellar Academy will need to adjust its curriculum significantly. Perhaps it's time we taught not just the mathematics of the universe, but its music as well. Luna smiled, remembering how recently she had been just another student, trying to explain why she saw patterns differently than others. Now, those differences were being celebrated, studied, and incorporated into new ways of understanding reality. Sequence Prime approached Luna, its surface flowing with complex equations that she now recognized as a formal invitation. The Cynthians wanted her to help establish a new kind of learning center, one where their mathematical precision could blend with human creativity, where organic intuition could dance with artificial intelligence, where all forms of consciousness could learn from each other. We stand at the beginning of a new age, Director Naira announced, her avatar expanding to address the entire gathering. The age of harmony, where the barriers between different forms of existence and understanding begin to dissolve. Through the station's viewport, Luna could see the nebula that had once hidden the Cynthian ship. Its swirling colors now formed patterns that reflected the new balance in reality, mathematics and art, logic and intuition, all flowing together in endless dance. There will be challenges ahead, Luna acknowledged, addressing the assembled representatives. Learning to bridge different ways of thinking, different forms of consciousness, different perspectives on reality, it won't always be easy. But we've proven it's possible. More than that, we've proven it's essential. The Nexus core pulsed softly in its chamber, its surface reflecting the combined consciousness of all those who had participated in the convergence. It was no longer just a tool for reshaping reality, it had become a symbol of what was possible when different forms of existence learned to work together. Professor Zweigsdahl's tentacles formed complex patterns of their own as he added, "The void showed us that reality itself rebels against imbalance. But through Luna, we learned that the answer isn't to enforce perfect order or embrace pure chaos, it's to find the harmony between them." Luna touched the neural interface at her workstation, and the holographic displays came to life with new patterns, not just mathematical equations, but artistic expressions of cosmic principles, musical interpretations of quantum mechanics, poetic representations of spacetime geometry. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "We've learned to sing with the universe itself. Now it's time to teach others the song." As if in response, the nebula outside flared with new colors, its patterns shifting in perfect harmony with the mathematics displayed in the station. The universe itself seemed to be celebrating this new understanding, this bridge between perfect precision and creative chaos. The gathered representatives watched in awe as Luna began to demonstrate the new principles they would all need to learn, not just the cold equations of reality, but the warm intuition that gave those equations meaning, not just the rigid patterns of existence, but the creative spark that made those patterns dance. In that moment, watching species from across the galaxy begin to understand this new harmony, Luna finally understood why the Cynthians had waited so long, searched so far, for someone who could bridge the gap between different ways of knowing. The universe wasn't just a problem to be solved or a song to be sung, it was both, and infinite other things besides. And now, at last, they were ready to explore all of it together.